I'm Josh Light with PoliticIt.com here in New York City with Tony Gronowicz, who's running for Congress in District 14 with the Green Party. How are you doing today, Tony?
Very well. Just went to the allergist and discovered what I was allergic to.
That's always good to find that out. So, Tony, tell us the big differences between you and your competitors in this race.
Well, I stand for the people, the 99%. I don't know what the Republican stands for, but I assume the Republican Party, given who's running this year. And Joe Crowley, who's the incumbent, who was appointed by his predecessor in '94 without even a primary on the last day that the predecessor was in office, voted for the Iraq War, one of 83 Democratic congressmen, as part of the Democratic Leadership Council, which essentially is the other hand of the dirty hands that clean up in Washington. But they clean up, but they never serve the people. They serve themselves. So, and this is a crisis because we're headed towards Spain and Greece. You see, in Spain they're storming the parliament. Do we want to reach that point? So I offer an alternative. I mean, I'm on the ballot. I got over 1,100. I got 1,100 votes the last time around, 2010, when I ran against him, just to give people a peaceful choice, because things are not going to get more peaceful given the state of the economy.
Tony, how's your experience prepared you for Congress?
How does my experience? Well, I'm a native New Yorker, and I know a lot about foreign policy. I just did a piece for the Global Research, which they published in August, called The Unraveling of the Anglo-American Imperial Projects, 1899 to present. So I'm a student of foreign policy. I hang out with some of the people who make foreign policy, as well as some of the people many of the people who are victims of our foreign policy, which puts the priority on having a military budget larger than the rest of the world put together, and 96% of the military bases on the planet are the U.S. Well, if you have that kind of priorities, naturally the society is going to suffer, which is why the United States is the most unequal industrial society on the planet, and it's getting not better, but worse. And, if Bill Clinton can sell you the Brooklyn Bridge once, Obama can do it twice. So I see him as a very skilled opportunist. I mean, if I could definitely play the role that he's playing, because I had theatrical training, and all the world's a stage, and most people let themselves be fooled because they merely project their good selves onto the leaders, who tend to have bad motives or serving particular specified interests, which are not necessarily, obviously in this case, serving the interests of the people. Otherwise, it's easy to clean up this mess. The first thing I would do if I were president, for instance, I would cancel student debt, because when I went to college, I was paid to go to college. I went to Columbia, I paid to go to graduate school, took out a national defense education loan at 3% interest, put it in the passbook savings for 5% interest, and made 2% on my loan. That's the 60s. I teach students at the Borough of Manhattan Community College who have to choose between a Metro card and lunch. I mean, it's criminal, the way they're running things. And they've offshored all that money. James Henry of the Tax Network Policy Institute put out a report in July which said $21 trillion is offshored, but nobody wants to deal with this. It's like shock and awe economics. $21 trillion. When you go into Chase, you see private client. They can take your money, put it in a place like the Cayman Islands, a British protectorate, and you don't have to pay any taxes. The money is there, but it's been offshored.
Tony, what are your views on the environment?
Well, obviously the environment is in dire peril. There is a area in the Pacific twice the size of Texas, made of plastic bags and other garbage, destroying the seas, polluting the oceans. Jacques Cousteau, before he died, the great oceanographer, said he couldn't find a cubic inch of seawater that didn't have some oily residue in it. I mean, we're getting killed. I mean, we can have solar, wind, and wave. We have the technology for this. We can get sun on a cloudy day. But they don't want to do it because dynastically the rich families in the U.S. don't want to do this. That's the Rockefellers, the Bushes, the Cheneys, and yes, Al Gore, because Al Gore's father in 1980 was put on the payroll of Occidental Petroleum at $500,000 a year, when $500,000 is equivalent today of $2.5 million. So Gore is a total Machiavellian fraud. At least Bush, you know what you got. And of course, historians universally in the U.S. say that he's the worst president we've ever had. That's why he even didn't show up at the Republican convention. They don't want to carry that baggage around. But he accomplished his purpose. His purpose was to have the war in Iraq so that they could steal that country's oil.
Tony, what fiscal issues are people concerned about in District 16 or District 14?
Well, and I think in every congressional district, people are concerned about jobs and job security. It used to be you got a job with a company, you stayed there 40 years, you got a pension, and you retired, like my mother. Okay, now people are moved around like checkers on a checkerboard, and it's the prerogative of the CEOs and the financial planners of the given companies to move people around. And there's no job security. And in the universities where people teach, the majority of people teaching in universities today are adjuncts. They don't have any protection. They don't have any job security. They don't have any sick days. I mean, it's criminal what's going on, and one has to blame the 1%. And many of these people inherited the wealth, so a lot of them are rich dummies. I went to school with them, so I know what I'm talking about. I can cite them chapter and verse, but I won't name them by name.
What social issues have you found people are concerned about in District 14?
Social issues are having a job. That's the main social issue. If you have a job, you have security. Health is another issue. And we spend more on health care here per capita than any other industrial society. And what are we doing? We're subsidizing the pharmaceuticals and the health insurance industries. We're not providing the kind of adequate care that we should be providing. And of course, it's preventive care. I mean, I do agree with the Mayor Bloomberg on one matter. I shouldn't even cite his name because I think what he did, going for a third term against the will of the people, 80% twice, was really wrong. But I would not only just ban 20-ounce sodas, I would ban all sodas because sodas are poison. They used to use Coca-Cola. They used in the Second World War to clean out car engines. I mean, the diabetic epidemic in New York, over 1 million people, well over 1 million people in New York are diabetics. There's no nutrition being conducted, nutritional programs being carried out of any adequate nature in the public school system. I'm against charter schools. Bloomberg famously said on December 1st, 2011, at MIT, he said, well, I think we can have class size of 70, yet he sent his kids to Dalton where the class size is 20. I went to a school, Trinity School, where the class size was 20. So yes, you get personalized attention, you get a full curriculum that exercises the mind, teaches cognition and cognitive dissonance and cognitive learning, cognitive thinking, whatever you want to call it. All you have to do is consult Jonathan Kozol, who I regard as the foremost educator. He's written 11 books on education, and it gets worse and worse in every book. And he said he's despairing, and he actually went down last year to demonstrate over the state of public education. They don't want educated people here. They want cannon fodder, and all they do when they take you into the army is check and see if you have blood. When you come back here, disabled, crippled, and 1/3 of the homeless in the city are veterans. I mean, it's criminal across the board. So education, health care, housing is a disaster. The rents go up 5-6 cents% a year. That's why the homeless population, as I speak, is the highest in New York City it's ever been. So pick an issue. It's bad. So naturally, we can have non-fossil burning fuels, but there's no incentive on the part of the dynasties in the 1% to do it because they're making terrific profits. Look at the price of gas now. It's over $4. So,
Tony, we look at your IT score, your online presence. How are you looking to improve that?
well, the more online presence, the better, obviously. So I go on talk shows, and I'm like this one, and get interviewed and present my program. Of course, I'd love to get into the debates. You saw what happened when Perot got into the debates. He hated the Bush family so much. He's from Texas. He knows firsthand about their crimes. He got into the debates. He spent $100 million of his own money. He was coming in first in California, and California, of course, is the most important primary in the nation, and his family was threatened, so he said, by the Bush syndicate. He dropped out of the race. He got back in, and still he got 19% of the vote because he was in the debates. So the job of the two parties, the two-card Monte, I call it, is to keep third parties out of the debates. So the Greens and the Libertarians and others have worked together to try to get in there, but there's not much of a chance. People are so despairing. I mean, we have the lowest rate of voting in the world for an industrial society, and only half the people are registered because they don't think it makes any difference. I'm going to quote here from George Wallace, who I'm fundamentally opposed to back in the 60s. He said there ain't a dime's worth of difference between the two parties. He was absolutely right. But that was the reason for the Kennedy assassination, the second Kennedy assassination, because he was ahead in California. And when he was killed, and Martin Luther King was killed because he was planning to run in a third party with Benjamin Spock, the pediatrician doctor, the best-selling child doctor, That's the way you get rid of third parties. You get rid of people who are threats, who are out there and very visible in the public eye.
Tony, how's your campaign going right now?
Well, right now I am just gearing up. I squired Jill Stein around New York last weekend. I called up the campaign. My cousin had thrown a fundraiser for her in March. Carol Szymanski threw a fundraiser at her place in Chelsea. And then I called up the campaign and said, look, you got to come down here and make Jill make an appearance at the Occupy movement. And she did splendidly. And I squired her about. I was the chauffeur, the bodyguard, and now I'm the historical consultant. So, I mean, I'm working on her campaign, but in the month of October, I'll be working with Adam Weissman against the Trans-Pacific, the Trans-Pacific, not pipeline. With so many pipelines that people are opposed to that are polluting the environment. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is, as people have said, NAFTA on steroids. So that's a danger. That's even a greater threat to American jobs and prosperity. Because in 1993, when Clinton came out in favor of NAFTA on September 14th, 1993, he had Gore there, he had Carter there, he had Ford there, he had Senior Bush there, and they all made fun of Perot. And Clinton said, I wouldn't sign this, as he smiles, as he does all the time, if I didn't think it meant full-time jobs with full benefits for American workers. And not only that, it's going to turn Mexico into a second world country. I mean, that was what they were saying, both parties in 1994, but people don't know this. It's really a question of education, which is why the public education system here is being starved and destroyed. In Chicago by Obama's right-hand boy, Rahm Emanuel.
Tony, where can people go to learn more about you?
VoteGronowicz.info. Vote GRONOWICZ.info.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay, you're very welcome. Josh, pleasure.